Hey guys, and welcome back for another tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this super cute summer beach tote cooler. This is a perfect little lunch bag for work, picnics in the park, or to the beach. It's waterproof and insulated and will keep your food and drinks cold for hours. Now with all my tutorials, I provide measurements, materials, and links to the products I use over at the blog post, which will be linked below, as well as the information icon. And if you're new to the channel, I would love it if you subscribe, hit that notification bell, and also smash that like button, as the kids like to say. Okay, so for this tutorial, you will need 3 pieces of your outer fabric. You're going to need 2 for the lining and then 2 pieces of insulation fabric. I am using a tablecloth I actually got over at HomeSense, and for the lining, I will be using a shower curtain. I'm using a nylon zipper and also these beautiful cork handles. I will have a link in the corner if you would like to create your own handles in a different way. So there's lots of different options. Or you can just use a webbing, such as a dog leash, like that type. This is the Insul Bright. This is the insulation fabric that I'm using. It's a needle punch insulation. So that should keep everything nice and cool inside. So the first thing we're going to do is take our outer pocket outer fabric. And then we have another piece that is the lining of that pocket, and it is going to be a little bit shorter than the outer fabric. You don't have to do a waterproof layer for your outer pocket if you don't want to. I just figured since I'm doing the inside, we might as well just keep it all nice and, waterproof, so that if it gets dirty, you can just easily wipe it with a cloth. So I'm just going to go ahead and sew the top of that. Now, as you see, my fabric has a direction, so I just made sure that I did that at the top of it, so that when I go to, assemble my bag later on, I don't end up with upside down flamingos. So after that, we are going to turn it right sides out, and we are going to just line up the bottom. And as you saw, because they're different lengths, now that I've lined up the bottom, the top will come down a little bit, and it kind of gives it a finished edge. And then we're just going to do a seam right along the edge of the lining. So when I'm working with this plastic type material, I will up my stitch length to a 3, just because if you do anything smaller than a 2.5, I say, then you might just end up perforating your the plastic too much, and then it would just easily tear off, sort of like if you're perforating paper and it kind of just rips on its own. So you want to give it a little bit bigger stitches, just so that you can avoid any issues when you're using your bag. So next we're going to take one of the outer pieces of the main body of the bag, and we're going to install our zipper. So we're going to take that, put that with the right sides up, and then take our zipper and put that with the zipper pulled down on the top of your fabric. So like I said before, this is directional, so we're going to be doing it at the top. And as you saw, we will line up the side of the zipper with the side of the fabric, and then we'll fold up the end of the zipper so it goes towards the top. And now we're going to add our lining and then the insulation fabric on top. So there's going to be 3 different layers, but make sure your lining and the outer fabric are right sides together. So now I'm just clipping the top. You want to clip it really good, because we're going to go ahead and place our handles, and we just want to make sure that the layers don't come apart when we do this next step, because we're going to be folding open the fabric so that we can see on the inside and we can measure out our handles. So I'm going to measure probably 4.5 inches from each side, and I'll place my handles in between the layer of outer fabric and the zipper. So make sure you put it in this way, otherwise you're going to end up with a handle inside your bag. So between outer fabric, always. And we're just going to line up the raw edges of that handle, and we'll just clip those into place. After that, we're going to go ahead and switch to our zipper foot. If you're new to zipper feet, I do have a tutorial. I'll link that in the information icon. It teaches you all about zipper feet and how to install them and how to use them. And we're going to go ahead and sew right down the side of the zipper. The great thing about that zipper foot is that it does get nice and close to those zipper teeth, so you can have a nice tight installation. And then by the time we get down to the end, we're actually going to take our zipper, tuck it away about 1 inch away from the end, so it's towards the fabric, and then we're just going to keep sewing all the way to the end. And then after that, we are actually not going to be doing top stitches yet. We're going to do that later on when the bag is fully assembled. So this is how it should be looking. As you can see, the zipper isn't all the way to the end. And then we'll start to put the other 3 layers on the other side. Now, because I do have the handle already installed, it's going to be a little bit stiff in that area, so I'm just going to kind of hold the piece while I place the other 3 pieces of fabric, just so that I can keep that handle pushed down. But I'm going to again take my outer fabric, I'll place that with the right sides facing the zipper pull. And I'm just gonna sort of place the fabric on it first before I go to tuck down the little edge of that zipper. So making sure that everything is lined up nicely, and I just start clipping. This I find is the easiest to do. Just put 1 layer at a time and reposition your clips as you go. And then we'll place on the plastic layer on the other side of the zipper, and then we'll take that insulation lining and place that on one of the sides. And then we'll have to do the same thing with the second handle. So like I said, make sure you have lots of clips so things don't shift around when you go to open up the fabric to place your handle. And you're of course going to want to try to line that up as best as you can with the handle on the other side, so it looks all nice and even. So I hope you're enjoying the tutorial so far. If you do decide to make this bag, I would love to see it. So if you're not already following over on Facebook and Instagram, those links are down below. It's a great place for people to, come together, share what you're working on, whether it be something that I made or something that you're working on for yourself. So before you go ahead and sew this side of the zipper in, we're actually going to now open the zipper, and that's just because it's easier to get into the machine in this way. And if you have a nice long zipper, then you can kind of just push the other side of the bag out of the way all the way, but we wanted it to be zipped up initially just so that we could make sure that our bag was even on both sides. And then we'll just go ahead and sew the other half of our zipper in. And when we get down to the end, again, when you're about 1 inch away, we're going to tuck the zipper out of the way and then sew the rest of the way. So after that, we're going to take it out, and this is what it should be looking like. So you can go ahead and zip up that zipper. I'm not going to zip it up all the way. I'm going to leave a good size hole so that when I go to flip it right sides out, I'm able to access the zipper to open it more. But we just want to close it a little bit just so that we can make it easier when we go to do the next step. So the next step is to take our outer fabric, and we're going to place those with the right sides together. Now you might notice that my insulation is kind of backwards. I have one that was sewn in with the outer fabric and one that was sewn in with the lining, but that really doesn't matter because as long as there's one on one side and one on the other, then it doesn't matter. I don't know what happened there. So now I'm just going to take that outer pocket that we made earlier. We'll place that on one side of our outer fabric, and we will sandwich that with the 2 layers of outer fabric, and we'll line up all the sides with clips. So as you can see, with this tablecloth material, it does fray a lot, so I did end up finishing off the edges with some pinking shears. I'll do that after we sew all the way around. So I'm just lining up the side of the zippers. I'll put a clip in there, and then, of course, just try to make it as best and as square as possible, your corners and everything. And we will sew all the way around and leave about a 5 or 6 inch gap in the bottom of your lining. We want to make it a larger gap than normal just because there will be stress on those stitches, and because it's plastic, we just want to give ourselves a good, a good space to be able to turn it. And hopefully, if you do it gently enough, you won't tear. Which I didn't tear it, but I might have popped a couple stitches in the process. Okay, so we're going to keep going all the way around. As you get to the zipper pull area, you're going to sew over the zipper, but when you're on the other side where the zipper tail was, you don't want to sew over any zipper over there. So, and I'm just going to take my pinky shears and we will snip, the excess, or even, just enough to reduce the fraying, I guess. And now we're going to box the bottom of our bag. So for this bag, we will be boxing it to measure about 4 inches, maybe 4.5 inches. So we're going to do a 2-inch box. I'm going to draw that with a ruler on all 4 corners of the bag. We're going to snip that box off. And if you've watched my tutorials before, I sometimes will do where I line up the side seam and the bottom seam and sort of make it into a triangle and then measure that way. This is basically the same thing, it's just a different technique. And we're going to just pull that little cutout and we'll line up those seams and we will pin or clip that all into place. And then we're just going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance right across there. And you're going to do that for all 4 corners. So I'm just going to speed this up just because it does take a little bit of time, but hopefully you get the. So of course there is different types of materials that you can use for the lining. The shower curtain is not entirely ideal. Materials in my neck of the woods do cost a lot more. You would be very surprised. So when I saw a gigantic shower curtain, I thought this will work. So it is a little bit delicate, but they do have a waterproof canvas. And around here, it's about $16 a meter. So that was way more than a shower curtain. And you actually get more with a shower curtain. So anyways, so yeah, I'm doing that 1/4 inch on all 4 corners. And then we're gonna flip our bag right sides out. So like I said, just be a little bit gentle during this process. But I'm actually really happy with the way it turned out. I'm obsessed with this tablecloth. When I saw it, I was like, yes. And it makes me wonder what else I could make with tablecloths, because I actually changed the shape of my table. So I have a lot of rectangular tablecloths that I no longer can use. So after we turn it right sides out, then we are going to do a top stitch all the way around the top of the bag. So for this step, I actually don't switch back to my zipper foot. I will keep my regular foot on because it gives me a nice distance away from my zipper, and we're not going to be doing it too close to the zipper. We're going to be doing it on the outer fabric. So I'm going to do it about 2 millimeters away from the edge of the outer fabric, and make sure you're tucking your lining in as you go so that you don't end up with an uneven lining, which would then, it would get stuck in the zippers. If I were to do this again though, I would probably use a beefier zipper. So if you have a thicker zipper, I would definitely recommend that, because the little zipper I'm not too crazy about, but I didn't have one. So, but next time I find a good size zipper, I'm definitely going to make this again because I love it. And this was an inspirational bag that I saw over at a very famous company. So this is like a hot item right now. So if somebody sees you walking around with this, they're going to be like, where did you get that? So last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and place a little tab at the end of my zipper stop. So if you have a really long zipper, you can just snip it to your desired length, and you can put just whatever you want, a little piece of the outer fabric, a little piece of cork, a little piece of webbing, just something that kind of finishes it off, and then you'll have that so that you need that, so when you go to open and close your bag, it kind of helps you to get your little leverage going. So I'm just going to take a piece that's probably about 2 inches by 3 inches. I'll wrap the 2-inch side around my zipper like this, so the pretty side is touching the zipper. And then we'll just do a quick 1/4 inch seam allowance right there. We will flip it right sides out, and then fold it, and then fold it again, and then sew a top stitch. I'm not good at zipper tabs though, so do not judge me. It doesn't help that I'm using a really slippery fabric also. So I should have just done a little piece of cork. That would have been so much cuter. I don't know what I was trying to do.